Your screen is currently filling up with clouds of an algae that resembles a unicellular flagellate known as Chlamydomonas. Though we're not quite sure that that's definitely what it is, the algae are swimming towards the lit part of the stage, and as they amass, they form a blanket over the slide that looks like a kind of very festive green television static.
This is a drop of pond water. The green spheres gliding elegantly through water are called volvox. These spherical algae offer a unique glimpse into the workings of evolution, demonstrating how unicellular life developed step by step into multicellular life. But before we get into this in more detail, let's take a closer look at what volvox is and what makes it so special. Volvox is a multicellular alga around 0.5 millimeter in diameter. Like all algae, also volvox is able to do photosynthesis, just like plants. The spheres consist of an outer layer of cells, arranged in a regular pattern. The cells are embedded in a jelly-like matrix, holding them in place and giving the sphere its shape. This jelly layer is the so-called extracellular matrix. Additionally, the cells are connected by plasma bridges looking like roads on an idealized map. Each cell of the somatic cell layer has 2 flagella and an eye spot to sense light. The flagella are vibrating strings used by the cells to create thrust in order to move through water. The coordinated combined thrust of all flagellas within the sphere is enough to push it forward, allowing it to actively follow the light and avoid obstacles. Light is essentially volvox's food, and it has to ensure it is exposed to enough light in order to survive. Depending on the angle of incident light rays, the thrust of the cells is adjusted, allowing coordinated maneuvers. The flagellas of cells exposed directly to the sunlight will beat slower, while the flagellas of the cells on the backside, which receive less light, will beat faster. The cells on the inside of the volvox sphere are specialized on reproduction. These germ cells will grow into new volvox spheres. The newly formed daughter spheres will stay inside the mother sphere until they reach a certain maturity. Eventually the mother sphere ruptures and dies off, releasing the new generation into the world. The specialization and division of labor of these cells within a volvox sphere is remarkable and makes volvox to a simple yet fully developed multicellular organism. All cells within volvox work together as one unit. And now, let's get to the really interesting part. The evolution of volvox. Volvox evolved from increasingly complex algae colonies, which allows us to visualize evolution step by step. While our human ancestors, like the Australopithecus or the Neanderthal, have gone extinct, volvox's direct ancestors are still alive and can be found today. All started around 250 million years ago. A mutation occurred in this unicellular alga, called Chlamydomonas. After cellular division, the cells couldn't separate properly. A raft-like colony started to form. Bigger size now helped to avoid predators and to share nutrients. Over time, this raft started to ball up into a sphere. Swimming in one direction was now much easier, which benefited survival. In the next step, the sphere enlarged, and the cells within the colony started to specialize partially. Some cells became germ cells, able to reproduce, while others lost the ability to divide. In the last and final step, the germ cells wandered inside of the sphere, while the somatic cells started to form a simple body layer. Volvox was born. The cells of Chlamydomonas and the cells within volvox have extremely similar genomes. What mostly sets them apart are mutations in gene regulation and expression. Volvox shows us directly that complexity is reducible and that more complex multicellular life can evolve from simple unicellular organisms. Observing its development also does away with a misconception of evolution. In order to evolve and progress, the predecessor organisms don't necessarily have to die off, but can coexist with the other, more advanced relatives. Volvox is absolutely fascinating. If you have a microscope, I recommend you check it out. This is a fantastic beast. Thank you so much for watching this extremely basic introduction to Volvox, but I hope it awakened your interest for Volvox. Let's dig up some more dirt and let's stay curious.
When we think about single-celled life, we often picture tiny amoeba-like transparent circular organisms. But life in the microworld isn't as simple as that. Single-celled organisms vary greatly in both shape, size, color and function. So in this video, we are taking a closer look at the incredible microscopic diversity in a few drops of water from a single forest pond sample. These two large bluish cells are called stentors, and they are some of the biggest single-celled organisms on the planet. They move and feed using tiny beating hair-like projections called cilia. The cilia create a flow of water and food particles towards the front end of the cell where it can be ingested. Inside each cell we can clearly see the different ingested materials, where it is currently being digested. Stentors are also known as trumpet animalcules, due to their trumpet shape when stretched. In the sample I also found a lot of different green single-celled organisms, of different shapes and sizes. These two look like they are dancing. One thing they have in common is the presence of algae living inside the cells, giving them their green color. This benefits both the algae as well as the cells. The algae feed on waste products produced inside the organisms, and in return the algae produce oxygen for the cells and work a bit like internal oxygen factories. This symbiotic relationship allows the cells to live in oxygen-poor habitats. These yellow organisms are not worms, but single-celled organisms as well. The cells are called spirostomum, and despite their appearance, they are actually some of the fastest organisms in the world. Spirostomum cells contain muscle-like fibers, allowing them to contract rapidly when startled. This contraction happens in just a few milliseconds, which is one of the fastest known movements on Earth. Here, a stentor has been trapped in a sea of spirostomum. So far we have only looked at unicellular life. But there were of course also multicellular organisms in the sample. This one is a rotifer, one of the smallest animals on the planet. However, even though it's an animal, it is no larger than the single-celled organisms we have looked at. As you can see, rotifers also use cilia for movement and feeding. Inside the animal we can clearly see a set of jaws chewing on the ingested food particles. So the next time you walk by a pond, you now know a bit more about the incredible microscopic diversity that hides beneath the surface. If you have any ideas on what you want to see under the microscope next, please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching.